Welcome to Witch Way. I'm Elise, and this is the real-world witch lore of the Lords of Salem. Released in 2012, this horror stars Sherry Moon Zombie as Heidi Hawthorne, Jeff Daniel Phillips as Whitey, Ken Foree as Herman, Bruce Davidson as Francis Matthias, Meg Foster as Margaret Morgan, Judy Geeson as Lacey Doyle, Patricia Quinn as Megan, and Dee Wallace as Sunny. Heidi is a radio host. One night, a vinyl record mysteriously appears at her radio station, addressed directly to her. A strange feeling overcomes her when the record is played, and soon she is plagued by horrific visions and she starts on a downward spiral, enabled more so by her landlady and her strange companions. Author Francis Matthias, a guest on the radio show, is intrigued after hearing the record play on air. When researching the tune, he uncovers a link to the Salem witch trials and the curse of the witch Margaret Morgan. But what has a centuries-old curse have to do with Heidi? This film was produced, written and directed by filmmaker and musician Rob Zombie. He grew up in Salem, where the Lords of Salem is set and filmed. At one point, we see Heidi walk past the statue of actress Elizabeth Montgomery portraying her role of Samantha Stevens from the 60s sitcom Bewitched. When Zombie returned to Salem as an adult and happened to flick through a book on witch hunting, he was inspired by the Salem witch trials and even more so by the brutality of the European witch trials. So we see a mix of these in the film. Rob Zombie first released Lords of Salem as a song title, and this song shares a similar tune to that mysterious vinyl record. Some of the lyrics in the Lords of Salem, that of the yellow bird sits on her finger, is a nod to an accusation thrown at Martha Corey, one of those found guilty of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials, which occurred between February 1692 and May 1693. But how many victims were there in these trials?
Well, approximately 25 if you include the accused witches that died in prison.
Come on, 25? Are you serious?
Indeed, many did not survive their imprisonment, at least 5 of the accused dying in jail, and 20 were executed, 19 by hanging, and 1 was crushed to death. Zombie also refers to the 20 executed in his song American Witch as 20 innocents. One of the books we see in the film, The End of the American Witch, is also a nod to this song, as its title is that of the chorus in the song. In this book, we see a page from the diary of John Hawthorne, and we see him writing this diary at the beginning of the film.
I, Jonathan Hawthorne, swear before the eyes of God on this day in the year of our Lord 1696 to destroy all persons which choose to pledge allegiance to the demon, Satan, and his spectral army.
John Hawthorne was a magistrate in the court of Oyer and Terminer who oversaw the Salem witch trials. But the year he states, 1696, is 3 years after the trials in Salem had ended, and this is potentially where the European witch trial influence comes in. In 1696, this is the year that kicked off the Paisley witch trials, also known as the Renfrewshire witch trials. It resulted in the execution of 7 people in 1697. In the film, we also have 7 people executed by fire. As mentioned, the method of execution of those found guilty of witchcraft in Salem was hanging. In the Paisley witch trials and other parts of Scotland, the guilty were hanged, or some sources say strangled, before their bodies were burned. One sensational story of the Paisley witch trials states that one may have still been alive at the time they were burned and had to be pushed back into the flames with a cane taken from a spectator. There is one more similarity in this trial and the coven in the film: a dying woman's curse. In the film, it is Margaret Morgan, the leader of the coven, who was said to have laid a curse with her coven burning around her.
Margaret Morgan put a curse on the females of Salem.
In the Paisley witch trials, it was said to be Agnes Naismith who cursed those gathered around and their descendants. Every bad thing that occurred in the area afterwards was apparently blamed on the curse, and a few years later, a horseshoe was placed at the crossroads where the charred remains of the alleged witches were buried, in the hopes to suppress this curse. This horseshoe went missing, though a replacement memorial has been restored in the spot, stating pain inflicted, suffering endured, injustice done. It is worth noting that there was a Maggie Morgan who, in the Fife area of Scotland in 1651, was accused of witchcraft and being controlled by the devil after apparently turning into a white rabbit to confuse a travelling party and later causing a storm to sink the boat on which her ex and his new partner were on board. She was subsequently found guilty and executed, and a street is now named in her honour. Whether or not this is the inspiration for the name of the leader of the witches in the film is anyone's guess. Rob Zombie will have to let us know. Margaret Morgan sat onto a spiked chair. This was an actual torture device, and witches were tortured for confessions, though I cannot find any record of this specific device being used on accused witches. Margaret Morgan then has an iron mask placed on her head, which is similar to a scold's bridle or witch's bridle, which was used as a form of punishment and humiliation for gossips, as a metal piece was inserted into the mouth to stop them from speaking. This also apparently stopped witches from cursing those around them. But in the music video of the Lords of Salem, the mask is spiked, which is a nod to the 1960 film Black Sunday, where a witch is executed in the same manner. Rob Zombie seems to be a fan of old horror films, as we also hear a quote from the 1960 witchy film The City of the Dead at the start of his song Dragula, and lyrics in this song also mention the burning of witches and conquering the worm, which could also refer to the 1968 film Witchfinder General, which was also known as the Conqueror Worm. Prior to their execution, Margaret Morgan and her coven are enacting a witch's Sabbath or Black Mass.
All hail, unholy Father. Make your presence known this night. Trample on the cross!
Trampling of the Cross was included in Francesco Guazzo's Compendium Maleficarum as part of making a pact with the devil. Many of the other steps seem to be including renouncing their baptism and making a mockery of a religious mass. It seems Heidi's landlady Lacey and her friends Megan and Sunny are also in league with the devil and Margaret Morgan's curse. When they come to visit Heidi at her apartment, it is very reminiscent of Minnie Castevet's visiting Rosemary in Rosemary's Baby. Each of these actors have actually had other witchy roles. Meg Foster has also appeared in The Accursed, Masters of the Universe, and The Originals. Judy Geeson has also appeared in Charmed. Patricia Quinn also appears in Hammer House of Horror and Hawk the Slayer. And Dee Wallace also appears in The Little Mermaid, All Hallows Eve, Just Add Magic, and Hansel and Gretel. Lords of Salem scores for lore and history, and I liked elements of this film as it has some visually stunning scenes, though at moments it seems a bit forced in its delivery. Rob Zombie also released The Lords of Salem as a book, which is apparently based more on the original screenplay and goes into a bit more detail. What did you think of this film? Let me know in the comments, as well as what you have been watching lately or any other recommendations for my upcoming witch lore reviews. If you would like to support me and my channel, you can donate via the thanks button, or you could simply complete your Witch Way ritual in liking this video, subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and sharing this video with others who might enjoy my channel. As always, thank you very much for watching here on Witch Way.